What's up guys, Phoenix here, and this video is going to be another Metalfoes Zing combo tutorial video. The fourth video installment of this little combo tutorial series on this specific deck. And because we're starting to get into the multitudes of videos on this deck and on this topic, I felt like it's time to, change gears a little bit, change pace, and start focusing on a little bit more of the subpar hands, the subpar combo hands that you can perform in this current point in time in the game. Obviously these hands get a little bit better Invasion of Vengeance, because you get cards like Denglong, Wangtianghu, if that's its actual TCG name, and that allows you to have a lot more just sustainability in terms of having better overall combo pieces down the line. But in this current Dark Illusions time frame of the deck, before we have those cards, there are still some combos that you can perform even when you have those very subpar hands of not 3 Yang Zings, and just having very clumped like Metalfoes counts and stuff like that, where you have multiple Metalfoes cards in your hand, and you don't have 3 Yang Zing cards. Now, one of the situations that I'm going to be focusing on, well actually the situation I'm going to be focusing on in this video, is something that's been brought up to me a lot by people, is that they quite don't know how to handle this when the deck doesn't really perform as you want it to. But it's by no stretch of the imagination like really bad. But the situation that has come up in quite a few people's testing, as well as some parts of my own testing, is when you only have 2 Yang Zing cards and you just clump with Metalfoes cards. You just get 3 Metalfoes monsters. Based off how many Metalfoes monsters you run, this could happen more often than not. I personally run 8. I have run up to 10. At one point I was running all 12. Well, not necessarily 12. I was running 10 Metalfoes cards, 10 Metalfoes monsters, and then I was running 2 Painful Decisions in my deck. So technically 12. But regardless, there have been times where I myself have come upon this these sorts of opening hands of 3 Metalfoes monsters and only 2 Yang Zings. Now, obviously, if one of these Metalfoes monsters is a Yang Zing monster, the opening hand is absolutely amazing. I've already done an entirely separate video on that, the second video in this combo tutorial series, where you open with 2 Metalfoes monsters and 3 Yang Zing cards, and it ends you with 9 cards. You end up with a +4. You end up with 3 negations at minimum. 4 negations if you had a Chi-Win in your hand. Multiple different factors apply to that, and there are multiple different ending ways that that can occur. But a lot of people want to really focus on just the only the good combos that the Yang Zing deck can perform now, and rightfully so. There's multiple different linear yet not linear ways that you can achieve your end result. If you're playing Pot of Desires in your deck like I am, just to help you get more cards. If you start banishing key combo pieces, like certain combo cards, you need to be able to know exactly what you can end with based off what's left in your deck as a resource. There's certain little things and little nuances that you have to be aware of. So I absolutely cannot fault people for just only focusing on just trying to learn the big Metalfoes or 2 Metalfoes plus 3 Yang Zing or 4 Yang Zing combo pieces and combo plays. But a lot of people are just starting to write off the fact that if you don't open with 3 Yang Zing cards, that you cannot win the game by any stretch of the imagination. And that's just false. That's completely false. There are very much ways for you to play this deck when you have situations like this happening to you, in the essence of 3 Metalfoes monsters plus 2 Yang Zings. And that is what I'm going to be focusing on here today. Now, for what I'm going to be showing you, it's any 3 Metalfoes monsters in your deck. You do obviously have to have at least one of the opposite scale. So in this situation, we have 2 8 scales, we have 1 1 scale, and then 2 Yang Zing cards. One of them has to be a floater, and then the other card has to be either a Zephyr or a Jiaotu for this specific combo string. And now this combo string ends you with 2 negations. You do end with 7 cards still, so you do get a +2 overall. And overall, that's actually just really good, considering that a lot of people think these hands are absolutely unwinnable. But the fact that you can actually turn this hand into something that negates 2 different cards, as well as generates a board and generates card advantage for you to use on a later turn, it's something that's actually just... I'm surprised I don't see more people focusing on it. But anyway, so yeah, what I'm going to be focusing on today is one of the more subpar hands of 3 Metalfoes monsters plus 2 Yang Zings. And like I've already said, the Yang Zing in your hand that you're not summoning and popping off has to either be a Zephyr or a Jiaotu. And since there's 6 total copies of those in the deck, it's fairly reasonable that you would be able to see them. So there is that. But that is what I'm going to be focusing on for this video. But anyway, so based off whatever scale you had multiples of, you're going to play with whatever the multiple scales are first. So you're going to play, in this case, play the Steal-In first, and you're going to normal summon whatever floater Yang Zing you have. Now, Steal-In's effect will pop this very clearly, and you're going to set Metalfoes Combination out of your deck first. It doesn't actually matter what order you set them in, because you're going to be getting all of them out of the deck before you Pendulum Summon anyway. But it's whatever. It's absolutely fine. You can do whatever you want with it. But based off of what you had in your hand, whether you had Zephyr or you had Jiaotu, you're going to summon the other copy at some point along the line. But first, you're just going to float into more cards. So off of this Swanee, you're going to summon Chiwen. And so next step is that we're going to play the other scale, and we're going to use this scale to pop the first scale. It doesn't really matter what it is, because it's still going to just be a fusion material anyway, and you're going to be able to Pendulum Summon it. So it doesn't actually matter by any stretch. It could be any of them that you pop. There's very few instances where it does matter. The only real issue where it would matter is if you don't pop the Chiwen. You could Pendulum like this and make Ignister, or just like another 8 in general, stuff like that. But overall, it's very minor. It doesn't actually really matter. But anyway, so you pop the Pendulum monster, and you set your Metalfoes Fusion from your deck. So you're going to set the Metalfoes Fusion, and from here, you're going to play your other Pendulum scale, which is, now you have an opposite scale. You have 1 and 8. And then off of this Pendulum monster, you're going to target whatever floater you summon. I usually summon Chiwen just because I want the Chiwen to be in grave, because that is also a recurring resource. If your floater that you leave on the board dies, that's just, something you want to be able to deal with. But so that pops that, and you're going to set your Metalfoes Combination. And then, so you have Metalfoes Combinations and Fusion set. And again, whether or not you have Zephyr or Jiaotu in your hand is irrelevant. Whichever one you don't have, you're going to summon at this point. So at this point, you have 2 floaters in grave. One of them is a Chiwen in all the situations that I do this, because, like I said, it can bring itself back to the board on a later turn. It gives you some actual, resource management. It allows you to gain more cards later in the game, stuff like that. But anyway, so at this point, you've set up this little situation here, and you're going to Pendulum Summon. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, you only have 1 Yang Zing in your card in your hand. You're not going to be able to use Jiaotu. So you're just going to Pendulum Summon these. And so your Zephyr will trigger here and search for your first negation in the form of Zephyr Divine Strike. Now, you could also search Yang Zing Path if you wanted to, but at this point it's not really worthwhile to do so, because while you could, synchro into Boxia, and that would be 3 engrave, and you could Yang Zing Path and get 2 more cards, like, you've already Pendulum Summoned, and you've already Normal Summoned, so there's really not anything worthwhile that you can hope to gain out of that sort of situation. Unfortunately, you just kind of have to roll with it as it is. But you do get to search Zephyr Divine Strike, which is a negation, so that is something that's pretty decent in its own right. But, so from here, you're going to synchro with these 2 into Boxia, because Boxia is, Bay. Boxia is going to get you out of this situation, hopefully. Maybe, who knows? But anyway, so you summon Boxia, and at this point you have double combination and fusion set. So you definitely have quite a lot of fodder for this sort of nonsense to happen. So you use Boxia, and you just, destroy your set combination, or one of them, and you can either bring back Jiaotu or whatever your floater was. I typically bring back Jiaotu in defense mode, just because it's got a huge ass. You can put it in defense mode, and honestly, it just seems like the safer option, just because if it dies, it floats into something as well. But if they kill your big monster on board as well and leave this, you can potentially draw into enough Yang Zing cards to actually do something with, because you are going to get a draw off of this play. But so at this point, combination triggers, and combination is going to search for Gold Driver, or it doesn't really matter. It just has to be any Metalfoes monster that's not Volflame. So it just has to be Gold Driver, Silvered, or Steelin, because you could potentially use Metalfoes Combination, the set one that's still on your board. That's not it. You could potentially use this on a following turn when you fusion summon, if you fusion summon Adamant, and then if you do that, you're able to bring back whatever is in your grave, because this is going to grave. You've already Pendulum summoned. There's no room in your Pendulum scale. None of that. But from here, you activate Metalfoes Fusion, and you're going to discard the Gold Driver that I just added, and you're going to use the Steelin that's on the board, and you're going to summon Metalfoes Orihulk. That's why I play this card. If I can actually pull it out of the right spot in the extra deck. Metalfoes Orihulk. This card is a level 8. Ironically enough, it just happens to be exactly what you need in certain situations like this to actually allow you to gain some headway. And the fact that it's level 8 is the most relevant part of this situation, because you fusion summon it, and then you just immediately overlay with it in Boxia into number 38, Hope Harbinger, Dragon, Titanic, Galaxy. And so at this point, you've got Titanic Galaxy, you've got a Jiao-2, which is a floater on the board, so if you want to let your opponent kill it, you can always redirect attacks to Titanic Galaxy. But if you want to let your opponent kill it, you can very much just let them kill it and float into whatever you want, and then start redirecting attacks to Titanic Galaxy if you want. You've got a Zephyr Divine Strike, which is live off of Zephyr Neo in your extra deck, but then you also get to shuffle Metalfoes Fusion back into your deck, and then draw any random card that you want. So you draw a random card, and so you end with overall 7 cards. And this card could be anything like really powerful. It could be like a Pod of Desires. It could be a Yang Zing Path that you're able to use next turn if this floats. Not if this floats, when it floats, because this is going to stay on your board regardless, or it's going to float into another monster. And whatever monster you float into is capable of being popped by your Metalfoes scales, and able to trigger your Chi-Win Engrave, able to summon things out of your deck. There's multiple different pathways that you get to, formulate here in terms of a potential play line for the following turn. But so like Yang Zing Path or Pod Desires would obviously be like the best ones to draw, maybe Solemn Warning, something like that. But essentially, you do just get a free card off of the Metalfoes Fusion, which allows you to potentially set it again next turn, triggering more of your Yang Zing cards. So even though that was a hand that doesn't actually do a lot, it still ends you with very decent boards if you actually, dedicate the extra deck space to it in the form of, playing an Orihawk in this case, because Orihawk being a level 8 and being one of the easier Metalfoes to summon because it just requires 2 Metalfoes monsters is absolutely perfect for your situation. Because even though this was not one of the amazing, Yang Zing 3-card plus a Metalfoes like combos that ends with 3 or 4 negations, you still ended with 2, and you still ended with the same number of cards, and you still have a floater on the board, so you're still going to be able to get more cards moving. And then you still have combination that you can also pop next turn. There are multiple different options and thought processes and just ways that you can perform these things, and there's multiple different ways that you can make the combos work with fewer Yang Zing cards than 3. There's just not a lot of people I see are focusing on it. Rightfully so. I mean, it's definitely not the ideal, but you have to consider that even with all of your cumulative probability of drawing these Yang Zing hands, you're still only going to be seeing those massive Jiao-2 play hands about 7 out of 10 games maximum, and that's definitely good, but it's definitely not the best that it could be. And if you're able to actually fall back on these other combos that you can perform, then it's going to actually just help you overall in the long run of just playing this deck. So there's multiple different ways that you can address this, but this is one of the more simple ones that I wanted to start out with. I'm going to be going down the string of doing more of these combos with less than 3 Yang Zing cards, but I am going to also do more of the combos that involve more Yang Zing cards in the form of Metalfoes plus 4 Yang Zing cards and stuff like that. I'm going to be exploring a lot of different possibilities with the remainder of the combo tutorial videos in this little segment. But basically, other than that, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think about this combo video and the Metalfoes Yang Zing deck in general in the comments down below. Overall, how many times do you find yourself opening with a hand where it's 3 Metalfoes cards and 2 Yang Zings? And every time I implore you, every time you get a hand like that is 2 or more Metalfoes and only 2 Yang Zing cards, give it a shot. Try it. See where it can go. See where it can lead. The fact that a lot of people just write those hands off as auto losses is something completely it's something completely I don't even know what the word I'm looking for here is. It's completely unrealistic to me that you would just be willing to write off so many hands as auto losses in a deck like this that is actually very fluid and very adaptable. Even though it does hard lose to quite a few different things, this is one of those combos that actually just doesn't lose the Veiler in any significant capacity, because even if you get Veilered on the Boxia, congrats, you still made Boxia, and you still have a Zephyr Divine Strike, so you still have 1 negation. It doesn't absolutely stop you, but it does definitely make a bad situation worse. All of these different things kind of start playing into that, though. But anyway, as I've already said, let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments down below and the overall deck in question. Other than that, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to address them. And let me know what you guys think about the subpar combos. Whether or not you found anything that's that's really cool or not, doing less than 3 Yang Zings, or all that sort of nonsense. Just, I don't know. Just blather on in the comments down below, and I'll take a look at it. But other than that, that's it for this video. And as always, guys, take care.